The agenda is set. Hello, everyone. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. Today on the show, I'm getting a new neighbor. Barbie is moving to Berlin, and some people are seeing red, definitely not pink. Down with the doll. That and more today. It's time to talk. There she is, Berlin's newest resident. The Barbie Dream House opens its doors this week. Should you let your little girl go inside and play? Today, why some people want Barbie to pack up and leave. Well, it was a shocking opera. People booed, walked out, and some claim it made them so sick that they needed to see a doctor. Wagner's opera Tannhäuser, set in a Nazi concentration camp. A daring interpretation that was shut down last week after opening night. The opera house boss said it went too far. The director is crying censorship. And if you don't wear glasses, Google plans to change that and fundamentally alter the way we look at our world. They're called Google Glass, spectacles with a built-in computer, screen, and camera. Critics are calling it stealth surveillance. Cafes, cinemas, casinos are already banning it. The question is your privacy about to end where my nose begins? Well, I've invited three people today to talk, argue, and pry apart these headlines. My first guest is part of a very privileged group that has actually been able to wear Google Glass. I'm happy to welcome to the show Tobias Schwarz. He is a blogger and internet policy spokesman for the Green Party here in Berlin. Tobias, you say Google Glass is like having street view in your eyeglasses, which is interesting. We're going to talk about the whole experience a little bit later on, but let's talk about privacy for a second. You say it's not the people that are being watched who you're worried about. You say you're worried about the people actually wearing these glasses. You say their privacy is most threatened. Why?
Google Glass is a game changer. It's the beginning of the area of wearable computers. And we have to talk about what will happen with our data while using these computers.
Okay, and the possibility of everything we see, of course, being recorded. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. My second guest is, as we've said before, part of the A-list in classical music and art circles around the world. He has been on the show before, and he is a Wagner fan. I'm happy to welcome back to the show Mark Giesborn. He is an art historian by trade. Mark, we're in a difficult position here. We've asked you to come on the show and talk about this controversial stage performance of Wagner's Tannhäuser, but it's been banned, and we can't see it. Are we talking about pure censorship here?
Well, undoubtedly we're talking about censorship, but the question is censorship to the greater good? There are many things that are censored in society and unacceptable. The question is this an acceptable case of censorship?
All right, we're going to try to answer that in just a moment. And my next guest says that she will not be rolling out the welcome mat for Barbie this week here in Berlin. She says Barbie promotes unhealthy body ideals for girls, and it teaches them that they can only define themselves through their looks. I'm happy to welcome to the show Stevie Schmiedel. She is co-founder of Pink Stinks, a campaign that targets products and media that stereotype the images of girls. That's correct, Stevie. You are also a lecturer in gender studies and a mother with two girls as well, so you've got something at stake here personally. Stevie, what is so bad about letting girls play in a life-size dollhouse?
There's absolutely nothing bad about letting girls play in a life-size dollhouse. The problem is, or the question is, what does this dollhouse look like inside? I mean, in a normal house, you'll have perhaps a workbench that people are working with, or you'll have lots of different rooms you can do things in. The Barbie house is about catwalking, cupcake baking, and it's very much about beautifying yourself. Now, normal dolls' houses are not only about beautifying yourself. There's a big difference.
So what's inside is what bothers you. All right, well, a lot of people are going to be talking about those cupcakes, I'm sure, this week. It is a big moving week for Barbie. The iconic doll is getting two houses this week, and she is not in Malibu anymore. The Barbie Dream House experience opened in South Florida just a few days ago to throngs of squealing young girls. 10,000 square feet of pure pink in plastic. Now, Barbie is probably in her jet right about now, headed for Europe. Her second house opens here in Berlin this week, but the welcoming committee may look and sound very different, and it will not be pretty.
The Barbie doll has been one of the most famous toys in the market for almost 60 years. But despite the doll's popularity, Barbie also has her detractors. Critics say the doll sets an unhealthy beauty standard for young girls. Some even go as far as to say that Barbie promotes a sexist worldview.
I think it's the worst combination there is between sexism and capitalism, and it's just making money out of oppressing women.
But the organizers of the Barbie Dreamhouse experience in Berlin disagree. They maintain the event is about having fun. And after all, what's wrong with that?
Stevie, Barbie's been around for a long time. Why protest now?
Well, we've never had a life-size doll's house of Barbie. I think if we would have had this 10 years ago, we would have been more shocked. And we would have said things like that only happen in the UK or in the States. Germany has been more critical of capitalist ventures like that. Now we've got the Barbie house, and we've got 2 beauty salons for 5-year-olds in Germany as well. And my English friends say, what's your problem? Because we have them at every street corner. So we are experiencing this...
So what is the problem? I mean, isn't that just one part of providing entertainment for little girls?
Well, there are lots of different ways to entertain little girls, and the question is, why does it have to be pink and pretty? Girls,
but why not?
Because we have figures in Germany that are pretty recent. We can basically say that 2006, 70% of girls in Germany felt absolutely okay about their bodies. 6 years later, in 2012, it was only 47%. Meanwhile, we've had an explosion of advertising billboards everywhere, of outdoor advertising. We've had Germany's Next Top Model as a series becoming incredibly popular, and top model products and products for the children's play world with top model toys for 6-year-olds everywhere. Now, we've had a huge change in the toy market over the last 10 years. It's become even more prettier and pinker. We've got Princess Lilifee, which is a very actually anorexic-looking little fairy that is absolutely hip in kindergartens. And she actually never eats anything but feeds her doll, her other toys a lot. And so it's basically the image of the perfectly slim, attractive little girl that has become too prominent.
So, but shouldn't your beef be with maybe the advertising industry and not with Barbie? Barbie's been around for a long time. And
we are with the advertising industry as well. We have a huge petition against the advertising industry, or the German Advertising Board at the moment, telling the advertising board that all the advertisements that are hanging outside in the outdoor world, children consume as well. And we want them to take that seriously, that little girls are watching advertisements every day that to show them and tell them, beautify yourself. You're not slim enough, you're not beautiful enough, and you're only going to be successful if you're slim and beautiful, which is not true. Look at Angela Merkel. Well, she's not
the German Chancellor?
She's not a Barbie.
She's not a Barbie. Stevie, what are we saying there?
Yes, and she is, and especially in the job market today, we don't have loads and loads of top models making money, but people who are in different areas.
Yeah, I've got some numbers here for you. Maybe you can explain what's going on. Okay. Back in 1992, we'll go back 20 years ago, the Teen Talk Barbie doll, there was a big recall boycott in the U.S. because this was a Barbie doll that would talk, and one of the things she said was, math is hard. And you had a lot of people saying that this was solidifying the image of little girls who couldn't do math and science, and they just wanted to be pretty. Yes. That was in 1992. And there were all these fears about girls falling behind in math and science in high school. Now bring it to 2012, and the numbers are totally different. In education, girls are now out-sprinting boys, comprising 60% of new college graduates. They are getting more and more advanced degrees, more and more PhDs, and soon they will surpass boys in math and science. So this negative Barbie effect seems to have lost its negativity, if you will.
Well, we're talking about the school level here. Yes, they are even surpassing boys in maths these days. And even at university level, we have more and more girls who actually are interested in technical subjects. But they don't actually become they don't go into the job market that is technological. We have the job security at the moment is in MINT jobs, which is mathematics, informatics, technology, and natural sciences. But we don't have enough women in that area. We only have 10% of engineers in Germany. We don't have enough physicists and mathematic students. And it's there where actually we can get good jobs at the moment that pay a lot of money.
Okay, so and are you saying if we got rid of Barbie and the dolls that are patterned after her,
yes,
we'd have all of a sudden more female engineers working at Siemens?
The top wish for children, for girls, is to become either top model or actress. It's that what they see in popular culture every day, and it's that what is advertised to them as a job that might give them success and power.
Let me pull in our gentleman here on the panel. Mark, are we doing girls a disservice by giving them Barbie to play with?
I think I would agree with Stevie that in the last 30 years under consumer capitalism since the 80s, where everything is niche marketed and very tightly focused in the advertising business, that she has been a negative influence.
But you say earlier she was a positive role model.
She was. You have to understand that when I'm the only one who's old enough to... older than Barbie.
Well, share your pre-Barbie wisdom.
Pre-Barbie, I mean, she came out as a doll that coincides with the pill in the late 50s, when women were getting out of the kitchen. Remember, after the war, women were pushed back into domestic servitude, largely, and bribed with electric kettles and refrigerators. So at a certain time in the early 60s when she emerged as an independent woman, could determine her own life. She could choose to have sex or not and not have the fear of reproduction.
And she was celebrated for all of this.
She was celebrated in the 60s as a positive role model for the new woman, particularly the sexually liberated woman that emerges in the 60s. But like all things over a period, she becomes commodified and the ideas associated with her pass away.
Is it possible then that we're just seeing a doll who has maybe outlived her usefulness and we need to retire her?
Even when she was launched, or let's say the 60s, when the pill came onto the market, 1960 the pill came onto the market, and 1960 was the year that Twiggy, the first very, very slim model, was on the cover of the Vogue. It actually, Twiggy said, basically, I can choose whether I want to work now and I can choose whether I want to have children, but please still protect me. The whole insecurity of changing gender roles produced an image of women to be very, very slim and to still basically say, protect me, I'm tender, I can't do all this. And I think it's the whole insecurity we're living in. We've only had feminism for a few decades. It's so recent. It
coincides with the early 60s, but it also coincides with, it must be stressed, with the notion of a free sexuality that emerges in the late 50s. Women don't talk about sex in the 50s. So you have the Kinsey report, you have all these very important...
But the moment they're allowed to talk about it, they become slimmer and slimmer. So what does that signal? Because basically very slim women can't have children anymore. They're not sexual as such anymore. They can't produce the hormones.
Well, but they're being told that they can do both, aren't they? And this is part, but isn't this part of feminism? They're being told that they can have this bombshell body, but at the same time go to university, marry Ken, have children, have, you know, this atomic family, nuclear family, and after the children are born, they can go back and do yoga, and then a year later, they'll have the body of an 18-year-old again.
Isn't it the other way around? Aren't they told you can go to university and have all these great jobs, but at the same time, you have to look great? Isn't that what the
Well, they're told they
is?
can have it all, Stevie.
Well,
and
no.
isn't that what feminism told us early on, that women should be able to have it all?
Well, they should be able to have it all, but why do they have to have this very, very slim body? But Barbie, over the last... Have you recently had a Barbie in your hand?
No, I haven't.
Over the last 10 years...
There is a Barbie bar here in Berlin, as you probably know.
There is a Barbie bar.
She has become so slim that you actually think her legs are going to break when you hold her in her hand.
I mean, I do have to grant you that. A study came out very recently that said if Barbie were to be a real woman today, her ankles and wrists would be so skinny that she would have to walk on all fours. Her neck would not be able to lift her head, and her stomach would have only enough room for half a liver and a few inches of intestines. I mean, Barbie would be, you know, she would not be pretty if she were real. Let me ask Tobias. Tobias, you know, were born in the 80s. You know, so you've seen something totally different. You said if you had little girls now, if you had a daughter now, you would not want to give her Barbie. Why?
Because I think this puppet is not very realistic, you know? It's it's a symbol for things that the market want us to be. For sure, Barbie can go to university, but like Stevie says, she always has to look great. And I think that is no choice if you have to do both.
That's not what you want for your daughters. I mean, you reflect the market right now too, as well, Tobias, because the numbers show that sales for Barbie have stagnated in the United States, fallen 50% since the year 2000. So, Stevie, maybe you may be on the right side of the argument here, but maybe the market is going to take care of Barbie and get rid of her.
But why has the market stagnated? Because Mattel has now launched the Monster High doll, and that has basically taken the share of the market.
Well, it looks like Lady Gaga, right? That's what they say it's kind of patterned after. And kids love Lady Gaga. She's real.
Yeah, she's had huge problems of eating disorders over the last 20 years, as she's repeatedly said, and she's doing actually very good work on showing everybody, like Angelina Jolie this morning, talking about her cancer problems. I think Lady Gaga is very good at saying, look, I have this body, I make lots of money because of it, but I've had eating disorders for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. So there is a problem with our system.
Before we move on, what's your take on this announcement by Angelina Jolie about having the double mastectomy to prevent cancer? It's a top news story about something that she is voluntarily having done with her body.
I think it's very brave because her whole image is built on being incredibly beautiful. Not only, she's also working for UNICEF, etc., but on the whole, she is the image of beauty and perfection. And for her to talk openly about it, it means that other people can talk about it as well.
Okay. And I take it you will not be taking your daughters into the Barbie house this week when it opens in Berlin?
No.
But you will be protesting, right?
I will be protesting together with other groups and journalists.
Okay. Well, we'll be seeing you on the news for sure then. All right, let's move on. Our next story is about opera, but you do not have to be an opera fan to appreciate what has happened here. Across Germany, opera houses are marking the 200th anniversary of Richard Wagner's birth. Now, Wagner is considered a genius at composing music and bringing it to life on stage, but he also has a dark side. He was an anti-Semite, and the Nazis adopted him as one of their heroes. Well, last weekend in the German city of Dusseldorf, a new interpretation of Wagner's Tannhäuser came to life on stage, a medieval piece set in the Holocaust with Nazi concentration camp guards and gas chambers. The audience was not impressed.
Productions of Richard Wagner's works have often been just as controversial as the famously anti-Semitic composer himself. Renowned Jewish conductor Daniel Barenboim came under intense criticism simply for performing symphonic excerpts from a Wagner opera in Israel. But a new production of Tannhäuser in Dusseldorf has raised the controversy to a new level. Some members of the audience were so shocked by what they saw that they had to seek medical attention. The theater has decided to pull the production and will instead present the opera in concert version. But is that the right decision?
Mark, what do you say? Is that the right position to take? Music with no stage?
Well, I think perhaps one should say there was naivety on the part of the directors, obviously choosing this frame, this subject matter. You know, using fascist settings is not a new thing. Tosca's been done many times and done again recently by the Scottish National Opera using the context of Mussolini. The question always is the setting appropriate to the narrative? Not being able to see the opera, I can't really say, except I would say that knowing the story of Tannhäuser, which deals with themes of profane and spiritual love and the conflict, it's a very late medieval tale. I mean, Tannhäuser himself was a knight.
Right.
In the 13th century, but the cult is built from really the leader book of the 15th century.
And, you know, the director has said basically is that he wanted to bring the story to an era that people can relate to. You know, he has defended his concept. He said that Wagner's libretto, as it stood, was no longer understandable to modern-day audiences. And he says, after the reaction, after opening night, he says, we were put under extreme pressure by the local press and ignorant know-it-alls, most of whom did not even see the staging. I mean, we're also trying to build an opinion here. We haven't seen the show, but he's saying that the people who called for his interpretation to be banned also hadn't seen the show.
Well, first of all, I'd contest the fact that fairy tales in and of themselves or these sort of narratives are inaccessible. You only have to go to The Hobbit and Harry Potter and countless modern updates of fiction or narratives.
Snow White.
Or even Snow White, yes.
Right.
Fairy tales.
As she rolls her eyes there, right.
These are still accessible narratives. But in the context here, it's the idea of Venus, who can be seen as, if you like, a medieval fairy or an elf, or she can be seen as a pagan goddess. The idea that she's a Nazi guard, it seems a little implausible in a concentration camp. And that the connection to the profanity of the narrative is loaded onto the fascist setting.
So is this a director who simply went too far in trying to modernize a work of Wagner, or is it a director who does not know his audience?
I'm not sure it's a director that is really aware of the implications within Tannhäuser itself. I saw a few years ago Peter Grimes here at the Komische Opera, which is about paedophilia, or the subtext of paedophilia, and the fact that Britain himself was gay, and the themes run as a dark current set in a East England village by the sea. But when it was done here, they did it as if it was, I don't know, Rimsky-Korsakov, Scheherazade. And so, I mean, the question is plausibility. We're not in a position to be able to judge that, given the fact that it was taken off almost immediately.
Okay, and that is the problem, right?
That is the problem.
That is the problem. We can't watch it. Stevie, we were talking before the show about this, and you said the director should have known that he was dealing with dynamite if he was trying to bring any type of Nazi theme and put it on the stage. Why can't he do that?
I feel very strong about that as a German, with a German history, as lots of Germans have. I think we're very reflective. We talk about National Socialism at school for many years, and I think Germans are still traumatized by the Holocaust, either because their families were involved in it on the victim or the culprit side. And it's a very, very tender, very difficult subject in Germany. Now, I only saw the few excerpts that we just saw, and it touches me emotionally incredibly. And I find opera is entertainment, as reflective as it can be. And entertainment is, you can't illustrate anything entertaining with the victims of the Holocaust. That's my opinion.
But is the topic completely taboo? Tobias, what about you? You're from a different generation here. Is it something that immediately offends you?
No, because I think opera is also a political place, and if we don't talk about our past and about these things, I'm not dramatized because of the Holocaust, because I'm more dramatized because we don't talk so often about it, and that I should feel like from a victim nation. I studied with Israeli students in Italia, and they made jokes about the Holocaust all the time, and we Germans were really shocked because we never would do something like that.
So is this something then that can be done on stages but just not in Germany? Is that what we're dealing with here?
First of all, we haven't clarified something we should have done at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not an opera. To Wagner, they were never operas. They were called dramas. And, of course, he developed the notion of the Gesamtkunstwerk, the total work of art. Opera was the great art form because it brought together all the arts. Music, staging, setting, painting, and every element, sculptural elements, were all brought into opera. So in his context, this is a drama. The question is, today, can we believe in the notion of a total work of art? Is there a work of art that can accomplish all the aesthetic parameters of our feelings and sensibilities? We live in a much more desiccated and fragmented world.
Well, I mean, but can't we do that, though? Can't we bring in political topics and put them on the stage without the director being fearful of censorship?
Baron Scarpia in Tosca is a Mussolini figure. So you can do Tosca very aptly in the context of fascist Italy.
But you can't do Nazis and Holocaust on stage in Germany.
You
Isn't that
could,
the
yes.
message we're getting here?
It may be the message, the general message, but it's not the specific message. The specific message to me is the staging of this opera appropriate or is the staging of this drama appropriate to the drama? And does it bring more to the drama than it might otherwise contribute?
But there are two different issues. I mean, one is your issue, which is a very justified question. And the other issue is really, can we do this in Germany on stage? And I would say, no, we can't, because we've got too many people of the older generation especially who are traumatized on the victim side. But also we have people still trying to work it all through, still trying to understand.
On the perpetrator side
Yes,
as well.
also. But if I go into the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin, I can hardly breathe. It really touches me, and I find it very, very hard to comprehend. I think we're still trying to comprehend what went on there in our families generations back. And of course, we're talking about it all the time. And I think it's important that we talk about it. I think it's wonderful that this huge memorial was built in Berlin.
This is the thing that we do. We talk about it a lot. We talk about it on this show a lot, too. And I wonder if we don't run the risk of even fetishizing the past, talking about it so much that it loses its gravity, that it's almost a caricature of itself.
I don't think so at all. I think something happened there that could happen any time again. It could happen so quickly again within a few...
It's happening in the world now.
It is happening in the world now, and I think it's so important that we all always concerned that it won't happen again. And that's why we have to talk about it, and that's why we have to taboo it in a certain sense as well.
Well, you know, Elie Wiesel has written that there is something unique about the evil of the Holocaust, and because of that, it can't be represented, for example, in art, on stage, or whatever.
Well, there's a very famous quote, you know, by Adorno, there can be no poetry after Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And this quote is a sort of leitmotif that dominates German culture.
But do you subscribe to that, Mark? I mean, because
no, I think it can be taken to extremes.
It's selfish,
a recent
isn't it?
Russian singer who had happened to be in some he's an opera singer, was playing a character, and because he'd been in a heavy metal band and had a swastika on his chest, he was sacked as the lead singer. You know, it can be taken to absolutely ludicrous
It can
extremes.
definitely go overboard, but the fact that we're taking it so seriously does work, doesn't it? I mean, we have the NSU process at the moment. We are very, very strict with any tendencies towards National Socialism. And I think it is important that perhaps we fetishize it, perhaps that is the right word, but I think that there should be a taboo around it. It should be still.
I don't like this notion of taboos, though, because I think that's just code language for censorship. And shouldn't directors be able to put things on stage that do shock us?
I think we have to work with this history and with openness. You know, taboo is always something interesting. You are not allowed to read Hitler's Mein Kampf here in Germany. You don't study it at school, not at the university. And this is really sad. I did it in Italy with an American professor. And she taught me Hitler's Mein Kampf. And then she taught me Machiavelli's The Principle. And it was really interesting.
That's quite a juxtaposition there.
It's fascinating, but I had to meet an American professor.
But you had to go outside of Germany in order to have that experience.
And I think we should see these operas, and I have no clue about art and if it's necessary or not, but it inspires us to talk about it. I mean, today we talk about just because he did it.
Yeah, we're talking about it, and isn't that a good in and of itself that we're talking about it? I mean, wouldn't you both agree with me on that?
We talk about it anyway. That's what I think. I think we talk about it through other issues, through people being arrested at the moment for crimes they did in the Second World War. We do it because of news statements,
yes, we do it because we're middle class and educated, but the masses of German people, like the masses of most countries. Yeah, but it's presented in the local newspaper. No doubt Bild has made some comment on it in the newspaper, so it is brought to the
everyday common man, right?
To the everyday common man. So I think we have to be a little self-analytical and self-reflexive when we make our own comments about this.
Yeah.
Yes, but it was only brought to them because it was stopped, because there was protest against it. It wouldn't have been brought to those readers. It would have stayed with the middle classes otherwise.
Well, regardless of who's going to see it, I mean, this version we're not going to get to see anytime soon. But quickly, Mark, before we move on, do you think that this has scared directors in the German-speaking world that they will now, in the future, that they will not even attempt to do something that could be shocking?
No, I don't think so. I think it has the opposite effect. I think it provokes directors. But they may not use this actual approach to Tannhäuser, but they may find other... I mean, there are themes within the Der Ring der Nibelungen, you know, the Wotan.
Everywhere.
Wotan could be seen as sort of a Hitler figure, a fascist god. You know, there are many, many aspects. You know, one thing I want to just say is...
Quickly, because we have to move on.
Yeah, form and content. You know, the notion in the Anglo-Saxon world, if a thing is about... If its content is pornographic, then the form is pornographic. In Germany and in France, just historically, a thing may be pornographic in subject matter, but its form can still have qualities of presentation.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, those subtle differences, yeah, they need to be talked about more. They do. All right, we need to move on. We're going to talk about something now completely different, a story on technology that is giving us the power to watch each other on stage or not on stage, in a way that we have never been able to do before. Do you ever notice, and I ask all of you this, when you're in a cafe, in a train, or simply on the street, how people have their faces glued to their smartphones? Well, it is considered contemporary communicating posture. That's acceptable now. Well, that could be about to change. Google wants to put your computer, your phone, and your camera all in a pair of glasses. The new gadget goes on sale later this year, but already it is banned in many places in the U.S. and Europe. Some fear that Google Glass will turn us all into spies with no way to know who is watching and recording whom.
Google Glass isn't even on the market yet, but there are already countless calls to ban the product. Google is touting its new gadget as a groundbreaking development in miniaturization and wearable computing. But privacy advocates are ringing the alarm bells. Google Glass could make it far too easy for people to make surreptitious videos which can be uploaded to the company's servers in an instant. Google is no stranger to charges of overstepping privacy boundaries. From Street View to Gmail, Buzz and Google+, the company has a reputation for culling information from unwitting users of its many services. Is Google Glass just another little chip in our privacy firewall, or will it tear it down completely?
What do you say, Tobias? Should we be afraid of Google Glass?
No, we shouldn't be afraid, but we should use this pair of glasses to start talking about our society and how we want to live in a society that is data-driven, and that won't go away.
You have had the privilege of actually wearing them. I mean, there's a select group of people around the world who have that privilege right now. And you have had a set on. Tell us briefly what's it like when you actually turn them on.
Yeah, it wasn't my pair of glasses. I met Robert Scoble, an US tech blogger, who went with a pair to Berlin, and he gave it around. And it was really fascinating. My first thought was, it's just a pair of glasses. It feels like every pair of glasses. But when you turn on, you get a very new perspective of dimensions and what you can see. You know, the first user case is, I would say, try to navigate with glasses. Try the street view look. You see the Alexanderplatz, and then you see arrows that show you the direction to your next target. Yeah.
So it's kind of like being in a spaceship and you're navigating, but you're actually standing on the ground, right?
Right.
It's like Street View in a way.
This is the first thing that we try to navigate. Yeah. I mean, the use cases. There can be positive use cases, and I see a lot of them. There will be negative use cases, for sure. And there will, I don't know.
But give me one positive.
One positive use case. A medicine student will get these glasses in the next weeks or so. And what he wants to do is he wants to record his work. He wants to learn. He wants to see what he did from another perspective. Other students can watch this video too.
So students can watch what he was looking at. Okay, so that uses the teaching guide. All right, what's a negative experience from this?
The negative experience would say I would sit in a train and I see Stevie and I don't know her, and then I do a background search. I can try to do.
Yeah, and what's to stop you?
two things. One thing isn't there yet, and this is like a contract of our society that I won't do that. I could do that today, too.
No, let's not talk about manners and people being nice. What is going to stop you from doing a check on Stevie if you want to do that check?
Nothing in that moment. Yeah, but I can go home now and search for a name and see photos of her and what she did. This is today. But
there's something more sinister, though, knowing that I can sit across from you without you knowing. I can run a background check while I'm looking at you, and I can also record what I'm looking at as well. I mean, this is something we haven't been able to do before. This is something that when we talk about the CIA and special ops forces being able to do. But now, you know, Joe Blow, man on the street, is going to be able to look at Stevie and do a Barbie background check on her, for all we know, right?
Okay, but your team did it too, you know? You invited me because you saw a picture of me with that pair of glasses. So I was somewhere in this very scary internet, a photo of mine. I put it there for myself, but somebody else could do it too because other people were made photos. And you were looking at my name and my address, and this, you did it without a pair of glasses. So I think which computer you use, a pair of glasses or a notebook, that's not important. And really, the laws are very good. You just have to enforce them. I even think you don't have to modernize the law of privacy in Germany. Yeah. But what we have really to do is talk about behavior. Is it good? Do I want it? And And this is the second point. Who has my data? Has Google it, or have I it?
Well, I think everyone's going to want it once it becomes affordable. I think when it goes on sale, it's going to be, what, $1,500. So people aren't going to be buying it. It's too expensive. But eventually it will become cheap. Are you too worried about this?
I'm incredibly worried. We've got a very prominent NGO in Germany called Digital Courage, and they issue an award every year, a Big Brother award, and it went to Google, of course, this year. Because, especially with those glasses, just imagine you have this Alexanderplatz in front of you, and you have the different arrows that tell you where to go. But Google knows that you love strawberries, for example, because Google knows everything about you, because through the search engine and through different things that Google has on your computer, it has a lot of data about you. So Google tells you, if you go right, you'll be at the next Aldi, and they'll have fresh strawberries. So basically, especially with children who are not as critical, who wear these glasses, if they become as cheap enough so children can actually want them for their birthday, you can have marketing targeted at children even more specified.
Yeah, exactly, which is going to make, at the end of the day, Barbie is going to seem harmless compared to this tactic, right?
No, it is. I think it's very dangerous, especially because we don't know, will the data only be transferred to Google once it is switched on, or has Google other methods to actually access the data? And that's a big discussion at the moment in Digital Courage and Digitale Gesellschaft, which are two prominent NGOs in Germany. They're actually focusing around this problem.
What do you focus on Google? And I think it's not about Google what we have to talk. Google is just the first company with the first product, which isn't very impressive from the technical point of view. What is impressive? How it changed how we live together in the society. And so we can talk about Google, but in 5 years there will be the next thing from a Chinese company, from Yahoo, I don't know.
So it's actually the technology we need to be focused on, right?
No, the outcome of this technology.
The outcome of this technology.
What Google, this glasses, the camera is worse than my smartphone camera. You know, the battery is very low. I just can make a video about certain
Isn't this
limits.
just all the logical step? We're moving to the point where things maybe will be implanted, where that will become acceptable, where you can have something put in your ear or something put in your eye.
We're behind that point.
So
there are cyborgs. There are people who want to be cyborgs. There's this guy near Hausen. He's very popular in this tech scene. He's on every conference. He wants to have a cyborg eye. A
cyborg eye, yeah. So that we're part. I mean, is that where we're headed? You know, we also get information coming from Google's top people, and this is something I wanted to ask you about, Stevie. The head of Google said that smartphones are emasculating. That the fact that we are constantly looking at our phones has emasculated us, and Google glasses are actually allowing us to be the men we should be, and able to look at each other in the eyes and confront
That's
each
so
other.
Funny. I guess that's based or has to do with the study of Simon Baron-Cohen. He's actually the cousin of Sacha Baron Cohen, the comedian. And Simon Baron-Cohen did a study in the 80s that infants, when they are born, look more on male infants would look more at mobiles, English, mobiles, yeah, and girls would look more at faces. This whole study has been redone very often, and it's complete. It's a joke, basically. There weren't enough babies that they actually tested, and the way they were tested is not up to modern scientific standards. So this whole study, but it's very prominent because it's a study we love, because it's the gender stereotypes repeated.
I never thought there was anything gender related to holding my smartphone, but anyway.
But that's the idea behind it.
The whole conversation is putting the cart in front of the horse.
Yeah.
And the fact is, what we're really talking about is something much more important, and that is the complete blurring of public and private space, which is invading every area of our culture. And even worse, we have private manufacture masquerading as public space. Take the Sony Centre. You go there, you think this is a public space. It has nothing whatever to do with the public. They have no right of access. If they wish to keep people out, they can keep people out. So this whole notion of what is public, municipal, and private space is completely gone.
But we're talking about that all the time, though, Mark, about the erosion of the lines, the separating lines. And are we going to have to welcome a future eventually where there is no difference between public and private?
I think the problem is that, for example, the laws for advertising were made before we actually had public advertising, before we had that explosion of billboards that we have outside. So advertising says that a common, normal person should be able to understand the advertisements. But that's not... The advertising outside is targeted at children, and they can't understand what's going on there.
Right.
And that's got to do... So the laws have to be renovated.
Yeah, we're running out of time. So you're saying the laws have to be changed?
Yes, and they can't be changed quickly enough because technical innovation is just so fast.
Okay, very good. Listen,
so,
we're going
sort of determinism we consume, what we are is what we consume, is completely dominant in this technological world. We're
going to have to wrap it up with that. Thank you to all three of you, and we will see you later this week at the Barbie House here in Berlin, Stevie. That is going to wrap up my agenda this week. Don't forget, you can watch the show again online, and don't be shy. Our inbox is always open. You can tell us what you think about the show. Go to agenda.english@dw.e. Stay tuned to DW. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. Join me next time when I set the agenda.